Right, so this morning, don't know if this is going to work. I'm going to have a go at showing you how I start off a drawing. So I get it set up, I've got my sketchbook, a pencil, I've got everything I need to hand so I don't have to worry. And then I think about what's pressing on my mind. And today I'm thinking very much about how there are times when you need to strategise, and that there are times when, however broken and exhausted, frightened you are, because you love people, because you have a family to think about, you put those to one side and you make plans, even if they're things you don't want to face up to. That's something that I'm going through at the moment, in a difficult time. So I wanted to do something about how you strategise. And so what I tend to do is I have a vague thought about, what might I use to represent that. I sort of went through and discarded a couple of things like chess or war games because I can't stand war, and I'm really rubbish at chess. So I'm thinking actually a sort of pictorial representation of what it looks like when you're strategising. You want to think it's something kind of dramatic and exciting. It really isn't. It's mostly sat at a computer or sat at a table or piles of paper or making phone calls. So I'm going to go for that. And I think one of the things I always try and do with my work is make it very everyday, very relatable. And what I really hope more than anything is that love comes through in the most sort of banal moments, because I think that is, for me, the essence of everything that's really important to me. As humans, we're incredible at love. And we do it by sitting at tables and planning things or making phone calls. Anyway, so enough waffling. So I think I'm going to do a table kind of composition. So I think I'm probably going to go for something slightly landscapey, but not too much. So I start by drawing a box. And as you'll see, that might get discarded. We'll see. So we start off. And I think what I'm going to do with this is I'm probably going to do a kind of diagonally-ish composition. So sort of like an oval kitchen table or something like that. Maybe. I might move this line at some point. I'm not sure I've left enough space here. I think I'm going to move that down a bit. A lot of rubbing out. A bit trickier when I can't hold the paper. Okay, so I'm going to have the person here, and they're going to be looking at things on here. Excuse CBeebies in the background. It's always on. So I think I'm going to have a person maybe leaning on their arm here. So let's get this. So then what I do is I try and get the angle of the head. And what I'm trying to look for is that slightly weary, but hopefully slightly quite determined. It's going to be that. And I also draw it, in order to place the eyes, I just put that on. It's very simple the way I draw. Try and get that sort of weight over the head and the hands. And I'm going to probably draw a lot of bits of paper here. And this one's going to come round. And that'll be badly drawn, but you get the impression. One of the things also with the way I draw is there's so much time to improve things or change things or make mistakes, and that's how I draw. That's not quite right, and I will come back to that. Can't quite get that bit to work, but I will. And so the eyes are going to be open on this one. I'm going to need something in the background. I might pop a window in there. It's one of my more... this is turning into one of those compositions that reminds me a lot of some of my earlier drawings, where it's a fairly simple room with a light source. So light sources are often very important in my stuff, but also don't look at them too closely, because sometimes my light sources don't make any sense at all. But I use dramatic lighting a lot in it. for no other reason than I just like it, really. Now I'm also starting to think about what kind of words, and it's really important so the words and how the words and the pictures work together is really important. So what I'm going to try and do is talk about strategy as an act of love, strategizing on a kitchen table as an act of love. So I'm going to try and get the words together, and quite often what I find is I'll come up with 2 or 3 ideas and then I just chop half the words out and I get it as pithy as I possibly can. If at all possible, I don't think it'll happen with this one, but if at all possible, a little funny punchline, because I think one of the most important things in all of this is if you can express something quite bittersweet or even quite tragic, but have a little laugh in there, that's one of the most beautiful things about humanity. So try for that. This one, I don't think I'm going to be able to manage that, so I'll come back to that. But I'm going to do that now, and that'll take a little bit of thinking through. So I'm going to stop the video, but obviously I'll write that in, and then it's getting on with the shading. Okay, so I made a bit of a decision. I'm not a huge fan of having a figure right in the middle of a composition. So I've moved that in a bit, so it's actually ended up a square. And I can't work out whether to put the window here, but then of course the character would be backlit, or a little bit of a window here and then there'd be a light source there. That'd probably be best, but it makes the window quite tiny. And then I'm also thinking about words. So I think it's a she today. I try to keep everything very gender fluid or ambiguous. That's absolutely on purpose. And at the moment the words are just things like, I'm going to keep thinking it's really cheesy. In the 70s when you get like tea towels with "love is," and there'd be 2 cartoon people holding hands who were naked apart from fig leaves. I keep thinking "love is," and I just think, I don't think I can do that. I don't think that's quite right. But something about, love is, and then something to do with paperwork that's very banal, or something to do with strategy that's, that's something like, I keep thinking of EHCPs, or, oh my god, PIP form or DLA form. So it makes me think, do I bring in some of those? But that will speak to a very specific community. But I could broaden it out to different ones. But that's more, is that strategy or is that just bureaucracy? I think I need to talk about planning. So I think she's going to be called Jilly. I think that's what I think I'll go for today. I think I might just go back to just the idea of strategy. So something about maybe something about to-do lists being massively important. That could be the sort of jokey idea of like a to-do list being like a battle plan, or that's back to war again. Not so. Oh, I do have those combative images, don't I? Like the one I did the other day. It could be. Makes me wonder if I should have a sword parked in the corner, actually. Sword and shield over here, bloodied and dripping. Maybe it's Melissa from the slaying the beast the other day. Okay, I need to stop again because I need to think. I can't seem to talk and think at the same time. I can talk and think at the same time, but not enough to focus on the words, because I'm getting a bit lost there between whether or not I'm thinking about the importance stroke banality of the paperwork you have to do, or whether I'm actually talking about the complexities of strategizing in the eye of the storm. Everything's really difficult, you're totally exhausted, and you decide, no, we have to strategize. I think I'm talking about that. So I'm going to go away and think about that for a minute. This was actually quite useful. So that's the kind of thought process going through my head at this point. And that's pretty much true of all the drawings I do. So I've kind of verbalised what happens inside my brain, if that is of interest. Right, I'm going to go off again for a minute. So, in a moment of like artistic hypocrisy, I've now completely contradicted everything I said earlier. Having said I wouldn't use sort of battle metaphors, there's the sword. It was actually in that earlier video musing on Melissa. I thought actually we can completely use that idea that after a weary battle, and you start to realise that actually things have got to change. So I've put the little, I've got the laundry, I've got the sword, which relates to an earlier drawing, and actually I have focused on humour, which I also said I wasn't going to do. But I think that's also useful because quite often this happens with my drawings. I'll start out with a vague idea and I'll go through a few different processes. And I've pretty much got now to the composition I want and the general feeling of the drawing. So now I will just get on with, so the next step, in fact, I may as well get it started, is I'll get my ink. Ooh, excuse me, how do I do this? This is why I need better setup. Get my ink out and ready. Have everything set up here. I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm going to have to put this down. Back in a second. Right then, so this is my setup. I have my inks that I use. General Mess, big mug of coffee, Billy and Banana, keeping me company. My pen. So the first thing I do, my inky cloth, very important. The first thing I do, get my ink on there, shake it off a bit, and then I do the outline, which is always tricky, filming and drawing. And so all I will do, I won't need to film all of this, just to give you an idea, is I will ink in all of these lines, and that's my starting point. I'll come back when I've got that done. Okay, so whilst all that was going on, dog managed to eat my pencil and my rubber, but never mind. I decided to edit down a little bit more. I feel a bit shaky about that because basically it's turning it into a bit of an in-joke in that it definitely now references an earlier drawing. There's no other explanation for it. I find things like that run the risk of being a bit on the smug side. I'm not so sure. But also, to be honest, it's always at this point in a drawing that I start to think, oh God, it's just rubbish, and sort of want to give up. So that's part of that process. I get that with every single drawing. I don't think this is one of my absolute killer ones because I draw every day. There's a lot that are, run-of-the-mill or not particularly good, or some just outright bad. This one's alright. So that's where I'm at with that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working in... sometimes I start at this point straight in with ink. Today I'm going to use a pencil. I tend to just start sort of in the obvious sort of shady bits like this. So the light's coming from there, so obviously all of this is going to be shady, and this bit of the head will be light. I'll probably have obvious sort of light bursts coming through the window that are a bit over-exaggerated on purpose. So I'll tend to work in with some pencil like this, so shadows will be coming this way. I'm pretty loose with these. Quite hard to film and draw those things. And then once I've done sort of some of this, I'll work in with ink, and then I'll do a bit more pencil, then I'll do a bit more ink, and so on and so forth. So I think pretty much you don't need to see any more. This was just to sort of show the general process of how I go about it, and make the decisions that I do. Alright then. Cheers. Bye. Okay, another quick one. Thought it'd be good to show you me doing a little bit of the shading in with my ink. So just start working in here.
No, I didn't have a cheese drinker.
You're right, you didn't this morning. That's because I gave you a bigger breakfast than usual. That's my lovely youngest chatting in the background. Always like working with dip pens. No idea why. Just always have. And you just sort of keep going, layering up. I don't have a particular system, I just follow my nose. Right, I think I will stop filming now. I'll just keep working away at this.